just showed me of the house. Okay, hold on. The pictures you just showed me of the house in Dombrowa.
Right.
Those are not the actual houses, but they're built on the property of the
Right,
houses.
Right.
Okay. And then
But they built them, like after the war, they built them exactly the same way.
Right.
It was the same kind of look
Right.
house.
And who was the guy that you were saying
There he
was
is.
in the?
His name is Jan Rochelle.
And he built them?
No, he just,
Oh, he took care of the people that
the
were.
town was like 90% Jewish. It
Right.
was a shtetl, and it was 90% Jewish. And the few non-Jews, there were a couple non-Jews. So his mother was apparently, there were all kinds of stories about her that she probably he was even Jewish a little bit. You know what I get my drift?
Mm-hmm.
She was the lady in the town who serviced some of the men.
Right.
That was my mother's joke. That she was the korva in Yiddish. You know what it means.
And she paid up.
But no verification.
Right.
But my mother went to school with this guy, and he was non-Jewish. I mean, there was like a high school. My mother went to high school, and I mean, my mother was real smart. We know that, right? So it's really funny because when I went with my mother the first time and I met this guy, now I don't talk Polish, so my mother talked Polish to him. So I said, so was my mother really that smart? My mother says it to him in Polish, and then he goes, no, I was the smartest kid in the class. So then they started having this argument. And she's like rolling on the floor. And what is he saying? My mother was the one who was smart in math. And he was smart in history. And they're having this conversation. But apparently, she was known as a smart person in school. So he was her classmate. Right. And he stayed. After the war, he went back and he lived there, and all through the year, because they really were the Shabbos guy in the town, so there was a connection there, and
but
all.
they had a church in the town too.
Yeah, wait, I have a story about that. That's current, an amazing story, but so all through the years he kept in touch. When the war ended, he wrote a letter and told them what happened.
Can you just back up for just a second?
Sure.
And just tell me about the hole in the ground, just so I have it on tape, where he was when the Germans were coming into the town?
It was like a manhole, you know those?
Right.
Okay. So when they started coming in,
It was the sewer?
like a sewer.
Right.
He jumped in,
Right.
and then from there he was able to watch. He watched what happened.
Right.
So, like in 1946, he sent a letter.
Right.
I don't even know how he knew where to send it to. I really don't.
Who has the letter?
I do somewhere. I'll find it. I'm going to find it. I mean, or Maxine might have it. I should blame Maxine. I think we both have it, a copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1968, when things were really bad in Poland, there was a terrible financial situation in Poland, and he wrote to them, and they sent money and coffee and clothes. I remember, whatever clothes they could gather from the family.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent him stuff, so they kept in touch.
Mm-hmm.
So when my mother and Leitchi felt they had to go to Poland, they got in touch with him, and he said, come. And so we arranged the trip. We arranged the trip to go in 1987. And then Chernobyl happened. We were going to go like July of 87, and I think it happened in April, the Chernobyl disaster. So.
That's when an atomic plant melted down.
Right. So I don't know if it was 87 or 88.
A nuclear power plant. Right. I'll explain it to you later.
It generates electricity from radiation.
It was like a big accident, and it had like this chemical in the air that was dangerous.
3 Mile Island was like 70s.
Yeah, 3 Mile Island was like in Buffalo. Niagara Falls.
No, 3 Miles in
that's
Pennsylvania.
But there was something in Niagara Falls. What was that in Niagara Falls? I
That was
forgot.
Love Canal.
Love Canal, right,
Yeah.
right. But anyway,
Yeah.
so no, it was not. We were planning. It's either 87 or 88. No, it was 86. Right, you're right. So maybe it was 86. It was when that happened, And so we did not go because it was dangerous to go. So we didn't go, and then we waited a little bit. And so I'm thinking maybe it was 88. It was the year before we moved, or 2 years?
Now, who wrote this? Now, Dina?
Dina's my daughter,
Is your
our
daughter?
oldest, yeah.
Oh,
So,
I don't think I can get
picture.
through this.
Look at you.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. I haven't read it since I spoke it. I haven't read it. I can't read
You
it.
can't, no, it's
So,
just, it's
do
just.
you know who, just pushing it back a little bit, do you know who our great, not Joseph Hein, Joseph Hine's fathers, any relatives further back than that?
So his father was
The
Moshe
William.
Mayer.
Huh?
No?
Moshe Mayer.
Moshe Mayer, which is all the Mo's and you know,
I thought it was
Uncle
I
Mox.
thought it was a Belleville was back there. I thought Hein Belleville was named after somebody that was back there. William Hein.
you have it in there.
No, I'm saying back.
He only has it back so far. He's
Do
asking,
you understand? Hein Belleville
Oh, wait a
was
minute.
named after,
The father of,
What?
of the great, what I call great Zeta, your Zeta.
right.
Oh, she's so cute every time she had a fight, she came to the
You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, I don't know. I can't even answer that. I don't know. Is that right? You know better than me.
No, but what I'm saying is, Hein Belleville was William Hein.
Right. So he
Yeah.
was whose father?
And
He says
his
he
father
was
was the
named
same as your grandfather, as your.
No, I know my uncle Hein Belleville. I understand that.
Yeah, but,
Who was he named after?
yeah.
Hmm.
It seems like I heard that there was a Belleville back further, that he was named it. I'm sure he was named
Oh,
it.
he was, yeah, of course.
Now,
But I
according-
thought-
According to some of these books, that section of Poland was settled in the 16th century.
Right.
But do we know any names back further, you know, that Jews were there,
No, my mother always said that it was from the 16th century.
Right.
You know what my mother always
you know?
said to me about where we
You-
came from
you-
originally.
You understand what I'm asking?
I do. I thought Moshe Mayer was Joseph's father. No?
I
Then
don't
maybe
know.
it's William. Look it up.
Moshe Mayer, I think, was the maternal side.
Oh, okay.
The
You're right.
Schlachter side.
So you're right about that. That's right.
Oh, yeah, Moshe Mayer.
You're right. It is the Schlachter side. You're
Yeah,
right.
Schlachter.
See, so
I'm
who's
talking
the
about the Joseph
the
Hines.
Hines side? I don't know.
I think his father's name was
William Hein or Velvel. Right.
That's what I think.
Wow.
You see, that bears it out, see?
Right,
Moshe
okay.
Mayer Schlachter
Okay.
was,
Right.
was
Hers.
Fred Onion's
Right. Right.
father.
Right. So who is the Hein? And
Yeah.
Hein didn't come from Dombrowa. Hein came from Grodno, which is really close.
Yeah, that was, Grodno was the capital of
Right.
Grodno Gubernia, which
Right.
is the province
Right.
that Dombrowa is in.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but what I'm
Dad,
saying-
can you sit over here?
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise it's,
Do you understand?
I do. I don't have an answer. I don't. You know what my mother used to say though?
Wait,
That-
can I get some drink?
David, can
Yeah,
you be
bring
the
us some
hostess?
Okay.
Okay. What my mother used to say that the family before the 1500s, you'll laugh, but came from Mongolia.
Yeah, we do have,
The Mongolian
we do have
features.
Oriental features. They've always said that,
Don't do laundry well.
So you knew that too. You heard that too.
oh yeah.
I'm telling you. She said we came from.
well, do you know anything about
Isn't that funny?
the story about how his mother's father, Mary's father, went to China? Do you know?
Oh yeah.
Do you know that story?
See, he was a rabbi,
Okay.
and
And his name is
Yosef, Joseph.
Joseph.
what I was thinking.
Okay,
Right,
Joseph
that's
Hein.
right, Joseph
Okay,
Hein.
who my dad's named after.
Right.
Okay. So what's the story of how that China business?
So he was a rabbi,
Right.
and he he was a mashulach, as they say. He went collecting money
From who?
from whoever would give him money
In the
for
town?
yeshivas. No, all over the world.
Right.
All over the world. And that's what he did.
And they were Chinese Jews.
Yeah, and he went all over and collect. Now he also dealt in diamonds. When he came to America, he was a rabbi. He gave a lecture in one of these shuls,
Right.
and
You want some?
he. Would you
Fresca.
like
Fresca.
something? Would you like something to
Oh,
drink?
yeah, fine.
Seltzer, you want something to drink?
No, thank you.
Okay. He would lecture Jewish, rabbi things.
Mhm.
And he also, he was what they call Masader Kedushin. He married people. He
Mhm.
was a rabbi who married people, and he also dealt in diamonds.
But he was a rabbi.
But he was a rabbi yeah.
He was a rabbi in New York?
in New York,
Okay,
at the
so,
base Medrash
he-
HaGadol.
so what,
He
in
married
Brooklyn.
all of our family. Every one of his children was.
He married, right.
He had the marriage ceremony.
Right.
now, what was, so you're saying he was out going to,
Maybe
through
get
China?
diamond? I don't know.
But see, what I'm saying is, where, when they say China, what are they talking about? Are they talking about Turkey, that being the Orient, or are they talking about China being China? Do you know?
But I
that's
know
it.
China too.
What do you mean?
I remember hearing he went to China, but I
Right.
don't know why.
Okay, because that's a story I have never really gotten clear,
The diamonds thing was in there.
right?
He sold diamonds. He
Right.
sold them the engagement rings.
Right.
So he dealt in diamonds.
Right, but there wouldn't be any
Makes him
diamonds.
sound so rich.
There wouldn't
I
be
don't
any,
think
there
so.
wouldn't be any diamonds in China, though.
No, you
So,
don't think so?
No, diamonds
I
aren't
don't
from
know what
China.
He
was
was.
doing.
He had a little shul in Christopher Avenue in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Where,
Now he
where,
died before you were born. Oh, you're named after him, of course.
do you
He
know
died
where
like
on
in
Christopher
24.
Avenue?
It's in East New York,
Yeah.
Where in East New York?
on Christopher Avenue.
Yeah, but I mean, is there
12 Christopher Avenue.
Wow.
12
I didn't know
Christopher
that.
Avenue is where the synagogue was?
Now I don't know whether it still exists.
Right,
It definitely doesn't.
I would doubt it.
right.
But and the.
That's where my mother and father were married, at his synagogue.
In New York.
My father came to New York to get married. He was Washington. My father was born in Washington.
Right.
He was not from Europe.
Right. I know. He was American. Yeah. Uncle
His
Louis.
mother was a Caferts,
Right. I know.
and his father had. I'm doing some genealogy, and what happened is with my father. My father's name was Israel. Okay. And he came.
Do you remember your grandfather?
Sure.
I mean, I do too. Uncle
He
Louis.
he came from Europe, according to the 1900 census. That's the only thing I know for sure. He had married my father's mother's sister and had 2 children with her. Okay, got it?
Okay.
And they lived in Washington, and for some reason, even though his name was Israel, the census records his name as John. Now, no, that's the first I ever heard when I was doing my genealogy work. He had John married Sarah, who was Rose's sister. My father's mother died when he was a year and a half old.
Okay.
So then
Then he married.
her sister,
So Rosie was named after
his mother.
his natural
Not
mother.
his, you told the story wrong,
What?
okay? Your father's biological mother was named Rose,
Right.
Yeah.
okay? But you said it was Sarah,
No. He said
Sarah was her sister.
right?
that he married later.
That
He
he
married her after he was already married to
Right.
Rose. So you
Yeah.
started, what I'm saying is you started to tell the story about Sarah
I don't know,
first.
did I say that? He always says
Yes.
I'm wrong.
I gotta tell you, Heinz get it.
Right? Well, that, what I'm saying is he married
Whatever
Sarah.
way he said it, I was
he
following.
he married Sarah after Rose had died.
Yeah, and he had 2 kids with her.
Right, and then
Lena-
he married Sarah,
Lena and Rose.
and then Sarah sort of was a floozy, and they split, and she ran off with somebody, and he
Oh,
left
yeah.
town, right? So he left town, and now my father thinks that he went to L.A. and married another woman by the name of Rose. Okay,
According see, the way I'm tracking them,
This is your grandfather,
Right.
John.
Right.
yeah, the way I'm tracking them
Wow,
is I go by the census.
wow.
And I look in the census and I find that there was he went by the name of Israel on the West Coast. He came,
Not on the West Coast, you can go by Israel on the West
L.A.
Coast.
He died in L.A.
Okay, and you're saying he
That's
went
your
back to the name
father's
Israel when
father.
he went to the West Coast?
Yeah,
So he gave up the name John?
yeah.
Okay.
But and it's only circumstantial
Right.
that I'm the way I tracked it is, he has the same birth year, and the immigration date is the same.
Oh my gosh.
Now I tracked back the other way, and I never knew his mother. That's John's mother, Israel. He brought
John's mother, Israel.
No, I,
No,
John's Israel.
the story is in.
John's mother was named Golda,
okay.
Okay, so that's why there's an incompleteness here.
and
Okay.
he had a brother.
Who had a brother? John did? Okay.
And they immigrated in about 1880s.
Is that the Washington Caprices?
No.
No?
Capert's is the mother's side. That Israel was the father's side.
Oh, the last name was Israel? No.
Israel
First name.
Rosenberg.
Rosenberg.
Right.
All right, Rosenberg, of course.
And there was the issue about whether his name was really Rosenberg that I always heard about. Now
It
that
was
story,
That's
now the
Where'd they
Mueller
come
story
from?
has been a story of legend in our family, which is totally untrue. Okay, okay.
It's
So,
a good thing, because all the Hein stories are true.
all right.
No, but I'm just saying, I've tracked that, but
Isn't
but
that
the thing is,
interesting?
I still do, it seems like somebody told me in a legend, yeah, this may be legend, that Joseph Hein's father was named William.
I really
He
think
was a
you're
Belleville,
right.
he was a Belleville Hein.
I think that's.
Which means that family tree is not right then.
No, it shows this down,
Her.
but it says Schlachter was her
Right.
name.
Right. Not for Joseph.
Remember,
Hein.
they-
She married
Joseph Hein.
And they
Okay.
changed his name to Schlachter so he wouldn't go to the Russian army.
Right.
Right.
Because they
Okay.
didn't have any sons, so he
Right.
became a
And
son.
in fact, Tante Tybee,
Yeah.
when she came to this country, I have her immigration papers. She registered her name as Toby Schlachter.
My mother came as Schlachter.
Yeah.
Then when she came here, I have her papers too. Papers are Schlachter, and then she came here and she became Hein. She changed it to
They
Hein.
changed it to the father's name.
Yeah, to the real name. It
To
should
the
have
real
been
name.
Hein. Yeah, my mother's papers
But
all
the
say
thing is,
Schlachter.
Moshe Mayer Schlachter
was
was-
her
was
father.
her father.
And by the way, I have a really good.
Fredel Ronny.
I have a really
Wait a
good
minute,
photograph.
so Rose wasn't named after your father's mother. Rosie was named after Fredel Ronny. Not her name was that name. They were all named after Fredel Ronny. Frida, my mother,
She was-
Rose,
she-
Ruth.
Freda, my sister's name was Rose Frida.
Right.
The rose was for her grandmother.
I thought that she
No.
was.
I'm telling you.
Well, she is named after her too. Both
Yeah.
of them then.
Not necessarily.
I'm
But
saying, I'm
it's
saying
actually there could be
Frida-
two
Frida-
people named Rose. It's named after a different person.
Frida was named after,
They all were named after Frida,
right.
Ruth Goldberg,
Right.
Ruth Estrin, my
Right,
mother,
right.
Runchi.
But what
They're
I'm
all
saying
named
is
after
my-
her. But Rosie wasn't. You're saying Rosie was only
Named
part
after-
named after her.
She was
Huh.
named after her grandmother.
No,
That's what-
both grandmothers.
No, well, you're bringing both grandmothers. My father's saying it was only after his
Your
grandmother.
sister's Jewish name is what?
Rosa.
It's not Fredel Ronny
No.
or Ronny.
No.
Oh. I didn't know that.
No, I'm saying,
Okay, let's move on. Okay.
No, this is a lot of. We have to come visit again. Anyway, so this is the guy. This is the guy in Poland.
Okay.
Okay.
And who is this fellow
That's
here?
him.
That's
That's
saying
him.
And is that the
Zhozhetsky.
cemetery?
This is the
Now, he's since
fence
passed away,
outside.
huh?
I don't think
you
so.
don't- Oh, really?
He was alive when Leitch died. That I know.
Right.
And I
So he
haven't-
must be 100.
Well, no, because he was my mother's age. So my mother would be 93.
Oh.
yeah, what is it? No, actually, November 1st, she'd be 94. So he was my mother's age, like she was older. This is inside the cemetery. This is the cemetery. This is inside 1995. They
But
made a
the
big,
people were buried though, Joy,
from
in the-
1500s.
from really, really old times.
That was verified, that there were gravestones from like the 16th century
Right.
in there.
Where's the stones?
Oh, they're inside.
Inside.
Who's that?
Here. So this is a man that helped them in Poland, okay? Not a Jewish man, but my mother, this is my mother, and this is her sister, okay? And they
Is your
sent,
mom still
They
living?
went to
And you know who
rebuild
was the
the
famous
cemetery.
rabbi in that cemetery?
Her mother was so sweet. They
Menachem
went to
Mendel.
rebuild the whole cemetery.
and that's how we knew we were in the right place.
I'm saying he wasn't related.
No,
I mean, he could have been, but I mean,
right, probably everybody was
yeah, but
related.
no, but what I'm saying, Menachem Mendel was the venerated rabbi of that area
Right,
at the time.
right, right.
You know, I mean,
I just read
So
about it.
what's
Yeah.
the
Right.
connection with Grodno then?
So Grodno is like
the capital.
10 minutes away.
Right?
It's 40
And
miles, yeah.
Grodno
10
was a
minutes
bigger
long.
city.
It's a big
When
city.
we went, we couldn't go to Grodno because it was Soviet Union. It
Yeah,
wasn't
Russia.
Poland.
Right.
And we went when it's still, the wall
Right.
didn't come down. But there was a yeshiva there.
Right.
And that Joseph was from Grodno.
Joseph Hein?
That's
Okay,
where he
which
was
is,
from.
Which is Frieda Runda's
Right, Frederani, right.
Husband?
Husband, right.
Okay.
And he was learning in that yeshiva.
Okay.
And that's the yeshiva that all the uncles went to. They sent
Do you know
him,
the
and they
name of
all
that
ran,
yeshiva?
They
Was
ran
that
the
Mary's
Grodno.
brother? Was that
What?
Mary's brother?
Yeah, they all went there and they ran away.
You know what Grodno's name is now? How you pronounce if you
No,
find it on the
Hudna?
map? Grodno. With an
Hudna.
HR.
Well,
It's not a GR.
my father's name, my family name is Holstein. Half the family is Goldstein because my father was the youngest. When his brother, 25 years older, was born, it was Poland.
Right.
And the H was pronounced Goldstein. When my father was born 25 years later, it was Russia, and they pronounced it Holstein. So we have half of my father's family is Goldstein.
Yeah, but I
half
mean, if you look
Holstein.
on a modern
Right,
map,
right, it's H, right.
it's an H.
Hudna, right. Now you can go, because there's, you can
Right.
go. But we couldn't go then. But that was a yeshiva, but it was very close, it wasn't far. So they lived
Well,
in Stetzel.
according to what I see, it's close to 40 miles.
Yeah, that far? No,
Yeah,
I thought
on
it
the
was even
map.
closer. But I know he went to the yeshiva.
No, I mean,
in
it's not
Grodno.
that far, but I
Right,
mean,
right. That was the closest, like,
Right.
yeshiva that the boys went to, and my mother's brothers went
Yeah,
there until
yeah.
they ran away. And
I mean, that whole province is called Grodno, you know.
Right. So this is inside this is inside this guy's house, and this is inside the cemetery, and this is the stone that they put
Put
in
up.
there. So that's the cemetery after it was
This
built.
which stone? What is this
The,
stone?
a memorial stone that memory
it's a modern
of,
stone.
right, the modern stone. That's this. There was Stanley. That's the stone. But when we went,
So it was Leachy and your mother and you and Stanley?
the first trip.
Right.
And the first trip was a trip. Let me tell you, it was a trip. Stanley was so nervous because it was still communist Poland, right? I don't know how we had the courage, forgot, but anyway, he took $1,000 in cash and taped it to his body, right? And my mother, you guys know my mother, knew my mother, loved my mother. This is such a cute story. So we're about to leave. We made all these arrangements. We even arranged for a guide who was a Jewish man who went through Auschwitz and went back to Poland, and he was like the editor of their big newspaper, and he became our guide. So our trip was really remarkable trip because he really took us to these places and gave us some real authentic information. But we keep kosher, so we're going to this godforsaken place, literally. And what are we going to eat? So it's my job to make sure we do all the right things.
You're the mishkir.
I'm the organizer. I'm the event planner. So I'm the mashgiach, all of it. So I'm bringing, you know, dried fruits, and granola bar, and tuna, and all this stuff, you know, that we can travel with, right? And my mother's not happy with the menu. So we're at Stanley's house. We're leaving from Kennedy Airport, and my brother's in New York. So we're at his house, and my mother says, "Let's go to the grocery store and let's see what's there." Okay, all right, Mom, I'll take you to the grocery store. So we went to the grocery store. She goes into the kosher section, the freezer section. She says, "I'm buying this chicken. It's a frozen kosher chicken." I'm going, "Why are you buying a frozen kosher chicken cooked?" It was a barbecue chicken cooked. I said, "What do you want this?" "I'm taking it with us." And I'm going, "Mom, we're going to communist Poland. They're going to throw you in jail." "Nope, I'm taking it." And Lechi's with us too. So Lechi starts up too. She says, "Take some rolls." So, you know, the word no in the matriarchal Hein family never existed. There was nothing, there was no such word as no. You could use it, but it was never absorbed. You knew that, didn't you?
It's like it was never listened to. Is that what
That's
you're saying?
never. You know, you just say no to these ladies and
Same in their house.
so my mother buys the chicken, Lechi buys the rolls. My mother has a nice big pocketbook. She puts it in her pocketbook, and my brother's going, "Oh, they're going to I'm going to give him $1,000. I'm the bride, and what can we do?" And Stanley was so nervous the whole trip. He's sweating, so nervous. We get, and now my mother did not speak one word of Polish in the 50 years that she was here in the United States. She just said, "I'm never talking Polish again." When we planned the trip, she went and she bought a dictionary. She didn't think she remembered. She bought a dictionary. She and Lechi go down to the Polish embassy, and like, zhub, 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 zhub. I mean, it all came out. She didn't need a dictionary. It all came out. Well, so she remembered all her Polish. We land, and we're in customs, and Stanley and I are standing in back. And, you know, we have to figure out what to do when they arrest her and throw her in jail, right? And he's like sitting there and going, "All right, I got the money, don't worry, I got the cash." And I'm going, shut up. Anyway, she's with the guard, and I mean, there were guards all over the place with guns. All over the place with the guns. And she's sitting there going, "Zhub, zhub, zhub," and he's going, "Zhub, zhub, zhub." She opens up the purse, he goes, "Oh, zhub, 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 zhub," like, you know, he's coming to dinner or something. And then he whisks her across. And the two, we're sitting there. We couldn't believe our eyes. Then he whisks us across. We get to the hotel, Lechi and my mother set the table. We eat the chicken and the rolls. And of course, you see, I don't know, you didn't know my mother. No, you missed something. So, and then of course my mother, you know what she said to me? "See, I told you." I'll never forget, she's with this chicken and my mother.
What did she tell him? What did she say to him that he let her go?
"Never mind, I'll tell you later." Anything I wanted to know, that's the answer I got. I'm telling you, I asked, "What did you say?"
That's what she told you.
She always said that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was, you know, it was
Yeah,
too
she did
much.
her own
Well,
thing.
It was too much.
I had a similar story when I was coming back from Israel. We
So
took
adorable.
Tower Airlines. You know, that was the
I remember that, yeah.
And I'm sitting next to this guy, and he's got a big beard. Let's see, I guess we're coming home from Israel. And they start to serve food. And it's all kosher on the airplane.
Right, I remember Tower.
So this guy's sitting beside me. His name is Armin Hammer. Now, Armin Hammer is a famous...
Yeah.
The Army
Huh? No,
Not the-
he wasn't. Hi.
This is our son Jonathan,
Hi, Doc.
and this is the Rosenberg family. This is Buzzy, who is at Drexel.
Hi, how you doing?
Cousin, and this is his father.
Yussy. I'm
Yussi.
Yussy in the family.
And he lives in Philadelphia to Rochelle and his wife and
It's
daughter
Jamie,
and brother.
Jordan, and Barrett.
So these are the Philadelphia Hines. They are Hines.
New Jersey.
The New Jersey Hines. But know more about the Hines than most of the Hines in Washington. That's true.
No, but I'm sitting with this guy, and his name is Armin Hammer. I said, it's not the Armin Hammer. So,
I want to get more of this story.
all right,
This
I'm
is a-
good. Let me just finish. So he starts,
This is irrelevant.
they're serving the food, and he looks at, he says, "I know this guy. the mashgiach. He says, I wouldn't trust him as far as you could throw him. He says, here, you take it. He handed me everything that he had.
It's good for you.
You know, he wouldn't eat. All he had was an apple. Would you believe? Would you believe that? Go ahead.
All right.
Well, I'm trying to have
I'm gonna
this on
come back
tape about the
again.
family
Okay.
story. The trip to Israel is not relevant. Okay. Okay. I appreciate it, but it's not relevant. A little unrelated color. Okay. I'm sure when Carla hears this story, she's going to be very excited about the filthy guy on the plane who didn't want to eat the food from the bad
No, he
mishmiyah.
wasn't there.
Yeah, food in his beard and all this. Okay. Anyway, so
I love it. Well, you know who has a son that is the most religious of all the Hines,
who's that?
way beyond what we do. That's Wilma and
Oh, yeah.
and Stuart Bernstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a rabbi in
Mhm.
Israel. I see him.
Mhm.
Every
In
time
Israel?
my daughter has a baby boy,
Right.
we invite them to the bris.
Right.
I mean, I see him when I go, but like we were there in March, she had a baby.
Right.
And there was a bris in his neighborhood. It happened.
And
My
that-
kids are
where
big
do they
Israelis,
live
too.
in Israel?
Which one? My kids or his?
Yours.
Mine live in Ramat Beit Shemesh.
Okay.
Which
So
is,
that's like in between Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim, about a half hour from Yerushalayim.
Right.
But they had a bris in March. My kids are pretty religious, so they arranged to have one of the biggest rabbis in Israel be the person to hold the baby. It was her 5th bris, so so they arranged to have this very important rabbi,
Right.
and he lives in Bnei Brak, where Baruch/Brian Bernstein lives. So they came to the bris,
Okay.
but they've come to
doesn't
Jerusalem.
Melvin Estrin's son live in Israel too? Who told me that? I heard that he married a Jewish girl, turned, became.
No, that's not Mel. It's Wilma's son.
All right, I got the story wrong.
Yeah, Wilma's
I
son.
thought it was Melvin.
No, Wilma's
Melvin,
son.
I always thought Melvin.
No, it's Wilma, which is
That's why I'm taping things.
even more
Okay,
incredible.
no, I
But see, this makes an assumption that you can't be making mistakes either, because I've had
No,
a
no,
lifelong,
You know
I've had
it's
a
true
life,
because we have.
Yeah, no.
because it's your,
Wilma's
No,
son
we actually-
It's
married
He
a very
sends out a newsletter from his
gorgeous
yeshiva,
Japanese
and they
woman.
just renamed the yeshiva in memory of
Way
Bill
back,
Bernstein,
okay?
Yeah.
He's
his
about
grandfather.
he's
Right.
about
So he
45
talks
now.
about Bill and his
When he was young, he
father.
married a beautiful Japanese girl
So it's definitely
converted,
not Melvin.
reformed,
Gotcha.
converted to Judaism, and then I guess Stuart, his father, Wilma's
Right,
husband,
right.
Aisha Torah. Do you know who Aisha Torah? Aisha Torah is a very nice organization that tries to bring Judaism to people that don't have a background. And so they somehow got Stuart to come to some lectures, and he schlepped his son Brian, and Brian really enjoyed it. And Brian decided he wanted to be more religious. And he and his, she was stunning, but they were getting a divorce. And as he was getting more religious, he said, we could stay together, but I want you to become more religious.
The Japanese girl.
She didn't want to be more Jewish, so they got a divorce. And then he studied, and then little by little he became more and more religious. And I was in a Chinese kosher restaurant in Maryland, and I look over and I see Wilma sitting there with, it was obvious it was her family, and I go over and I say hello. And one of the people in her family was this very nice, he was a handsome young man with a yarmulke on, and I'm sitting next to him, and I said, how are you, yada, and I said, and who's this young man? Because I didn't expect her to have somebody with a yarmulke on. And she said, it's my son, he's like you. And then I proceeded to invite him to my house, which kind of surprised Wilma.
right?
How do you invite a stranger to your house for a Shabbat? But I did. And he came several times, but he progressively got more and more religious. and then he went to Israel and
Right.
studied in a yeshiva in Israel, and married an Israeli woman, who's a wonderful girl.
Mhm.
And he stayed in Israel, and you know, he's a very nice young man, but he's pretty religious, you know, which is an interesting thing because the Estrons didn't like their Orthodox cousins because of the Orthodoxy. But, you know,
Okay,
they're nice. Yeah, he's a
what,
rabbi.
what,
Okay,
can you
let's
go?
go. That
no,
was
no,
my sidebar.
No,
That's
no,
not
I
my
wanted
thing.
just to take a second, there was a,
Wait, I didn't show you all those pictures.
yeah, there was,
Here. Here, there's more from Poland. I have a ton of pictures from Poland.
there was
but I
a,
didn't-
there was a, another picture that, oh, it's in the blue book, in this one here.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
This
it's
is
in the,
just from the trip
this
to
is,
Poland.
this is in the blue bound book, you had pictures.
See, when I tell you, wait a minute here. See, that's a manhole. This is in the Warsaw Ghetto. You
Right,
heard about the
right,
manhole, right?
right.
In the Warsaw Ghetto. So that's what they look like in the town.
In
Okay?
this, could you just explain this picture to me? Hi, how you doing?
This is our daughter-in-law, Batsheva.
Hi.
This is the
Batsheva.
Rosenbergs, family in Philadelphia. Yeah, so this is all just
Could you tell me who's in this picture?
Holocaust. That's my mother and father. That's in Mo Hines' house and backyard, and they got married. Mo Hines' house.
So,
It's my mother.
that's your mother and your father, this
My
is,
father.
and then next to them
Okay,
is
okay.
Sip,
So this was in 1941.
in
My-
Poland?
No, no.
Or in the United
No,
States?
in
Okay,
Washington.
Washington, okay. Now, where is this picture taken?
This was taken in Poland.
Okay, and this is your mother and her
This
sister?
is my mother and her sister, Tsipke.
Okay,
And this was probably like right before. See, this is my mother when she changed her name. No, Rena Holstein. That's not. That was in 1941. I don't know what that.
so what
is.
year would this be in Poland?
This is probably 38 or 39 even.
Okay, so, and
I think
Sipke,
this is 38 because my
so
mother.
Sipke stayed in Poland, and your
she
mother,
was married.
and she was married, Sipke was married, Okay.
They were a year and a half apart
right?
when. Yeah, when my.
Is this the one that
mother's-
was in the barn, that story I heard, where the family got put in the barn and the barn was burned down?
That's right.
That was the story he used to tell me. I don't know if it's true.
Ah.
So how did she
How did they
die?
get killed?
Oh, no, because we have a letter from, there were two survivors from the town after the war.
Right.
A boy, Levinson was his name, and this woman, Sonia. And
What's Sonia's last name?
Grabinski.
Rubinsky?
Grabinski.
Grubinsky.
That's how this lady in Baltimore hooked up with us,
Right.
because her family's name was Grabinski.
Okay.
And our Israeli cousin, who was Ezra's sister's son, was Mordechai Grabinski. He lived in a kibbutz in Israel. You don't remember Mordechai? You should. Because he came to things. He came to family things. Well, he was a cousin, anyway.
The one that came to family things, the only one I remember that was sort of out of towner was Yeshia from New York.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He'd come and
See, I don't.
he didn't talk to anybody.
That's where my mother lived with him when she came to America, right. That was Edie, that lived in California, Edie
Yeah.
Cam's father. Edie and.
And how is he, what's his name again?
He was an uncle.
Yeshia?
Yeshia.
And was he a brother of Mary?
No, yes. It was Mary's brother you're talking about.
No. Mary didn't have a brother, Yeshia.
No.
My mother didn't have a brother, Yeshia. No, she didn't. She had Hein, Sam, Shmuel David.
Oh, I'm thinking of Shmuel David, yeah.
Okay, so then how is this Yeshia related?
Yeshia, he had these
I don't know
big,
who it is.
thick glasses.
Then I don't know who that is.
And he used to come to our affairs from I never knew who he was,
I don't know.
but he wouldn't hardly talk.
I don't
And
know
he'd
who it was.
stand there, he'd come down religiously, not religiously,
Right.
but
I don't know who it was.
Okay, well, we're going off onto another tangent and we're losing the track
Must be a genetic
here.
thing.
Okay, so where were we just before
Okay.
my dad brought up
Okay,
the
so
shit?
the two people who went back after the war.
Right,
So this lady Sonia,
Right.
who eventually lived in Israel. So she came back, and this young man came back. This young
his
man,
last name is Levinson.
Levinson. So he came back, and his family was the richest family in Dombrowa. And he came back to the place, and the
The
people,
town.
the non-Jews who lived in his house,
Right,
they let him stay in their attic,
right,
but they were afraid he was coming back for the candlesticks that his parents left,
right.
and they murdered him the first night. And she came back also the same time.
A lot of those people.
It
they-
happened a lot, right?
Yeah.
So she was afraid, so she ran away. And then she eventually went to Israel. So in 1946, we got a letter from her
Right,
telling us how they died. And how did they die? She was in line for the gas chamber with my mother's mother and her sister Tzipki.
This was in which camp?
Treblinka. So she was in line with them, and Tzipki had a little boy,
right,
Shani, and they were in line for the gas chamber. This Sonia was very beautiful, and one of the guards pulled her out of the line
right,
she was his, prostitute.
right.
He took her out of the line, so she survived by doing that. But then she wrote in the letter that the line continued, and my mother and her sister and child were sent to the gas chambers.
Her mother and
My mother's mother.
your mother's mother, who was who?
She's from Sarah Fradel.
Sarah Fradel died, just a
And
second.
Sipke,
And Sipke's son.
right.
Okay, now, Sipke's husband, who was he?
Yaakov,
Okay, so he married into the family.
right. And
Okay.
he died also,
So
but
he was-
in the men's line.
Okay,
And my
what
mother's
happened?
brother, Aaron Shmuel,
Yeah.
had a wife,
hold on, wait a
Dombrowa.
second. Your mother's who?
My mother's brother,
Right,
Aaron Shmuel.
right,
Because he was the oldest brother. When his father died from the pogrom,
right,
he was like 18.
right,
So he became like the father figure
right,
for my mother, Leichi, Alti,
right.
and Mo, and Hein Velvel.
So he was the oldest
So
brother.
he was the oldest
So
brother.
he was in Poland,
So
right?
he stayed behind because he had 4 children.
Besides
Yeah.
his siblings, right?
So he stayed behind with his 4 children, the mother and Sipke and her child and husband. My mother left on August 31st, 1939. She got a
Yeah.
visa 6 months earlier. They insisted she go. The next day the war broke out. She did not want to go. She said, she begged her
So
mother.
she left the day before the war in Poland broke out?
Yeah. And Rosh Hashanah was 2 weeks later. She begged her mother, please let me stay for Rosh Hashanah and then I'll go.
Now, where did she go to from Poland?
To Gdansk. Her brother, Aaron Shmuel, took the cart.
Right.
It was a horse-drawn cart.
To Gdansk, and
to
she got on a
Gdansk,
boat there?
And she got on the boat. And my father came from another town, and he got a visa 2 weeks earlier, which never happened. But he got a visa, and he was on the same boat, so they met on the boat.
Oh, wait, now,
And that
the one who,
boat took 2 weeks longer because they had to go through Greenland because the war broke out and everything was blacked out, and the war broke out the next day.
the one who drove the cart,
Is my mother's oldest brother,
again, his name?
Aaron Shmuel. So he was,
And he stayed in Poland, he didn't get on a boat?
no, he didn't get.
And so
put
he
her on
was
the
in the
boat.
men's line
Right, right. My
which
mother was the
camp,
only
which camp was he?
single Treblinka.
Treblinka also.
Yeah, when I took Leichi and my mother to Poland the first time, we went to Treblinka. And Treblinka is mostly memorials, not mostly.
Where's Treblinka in terms of?
It's about 2 hours from Dombrowa, yeah.
North, south?
It's just a clearing of forest.
Yeah, that really, Treblinka has nothing left, but it's all memorial-like, right? But in the middle of what's there today, they have like this pit, it's symbolic, that's where the crematoria was, and it's like it's a pit that has, like tar, it's hard, it's like a sculpture,
Asphalt, okay.
kind of. And we went in there, and my mother and Leichi, the two of them, sit on the ground. And I'm going, what are you doing? And they wouldn't talk to me. They sat on the ground and they started saying Kaddish, sitting on the ground actually. And then my mother says, we're sitting Shiva.
Hmm.
That really hit me. Then I sat down too and I started crying. It was horrible. It was very sad. But they never said Shiva, so he said, this is where they died. We said Shiva.
Now, if on your part of the tree,
They all came.
Mary's parents, they all came.
They came in 1890s, right?
What, 1903 Mary came, I think.
Is that when they came?
Yeah,
1903?
right.
Now wait, so they came to New York. So when did your mother
She
come
was
down
like
and
3
stay
years.
with her brothers? Is that what she did?
No.
She grew up in New York. She
She
went
did.
to high school.
Mary grew
Right,
up in New York.
She was American, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She went
Although
to
she
high school.
didn't sound American. She sounded like she had an accent her whole life.
No, she did.
I think
She
she
had
did.
the least of the accents.
Well, she definitely had an accent.
And I
though.
never understood how I could have an aunt named Mary, but
Right.
but it was Mary.
It was
It was Mary.
Well, Mary.
Mari.
Mary.
Mary.
But it wasn't Mary. But I had an
Right,
aunt
everybody
Mary.
everybody called her Mary.
Tanti,
Okay.
Tanti Mary, excuse me. She
Right.
was Tanti Mary.
Yeah, she was Tante Mary.
Right.
And she came from, she grew up in New York.
She was a baby when they came, right?
Yeah, she was like
very
3
little.
years old. I
She
think.
was 5 years old.
5 years old. Okay.
She was little.
And she was the youngest.
Right.
And her father was the one who was on Christopher Street that had the synagogue.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
All right.
all the fault.
Okay.
And he's buried in New York.
Okay. Where's he buried at?
David,
Yeah, we've been
Washington Cemetery?
Yeah, I've been there.
Washington.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
Wait a second. Slow down a second. So, his name again is
Joseph Hunt.
Joseph Hein. He's buried at Washington Cemetery,
And she is too.
and
Fanny is her name.
Fanny
Roney.
Frederona is buried there, and it's where's the location of this?
Ocean Parkway and
Yeah,
Bay
we've all
McDonald.
been
Hold it. Wait a second. Ocean Parkway and what?
Bay Park.
And Bay Parkway and Brooklyn. Okay. I reconditioned some pictures of Frederuna and her husband that are really amazing.
You have a big one?
I got it from Carolyn, and I scanned them, and I made them into really nice pictures. So if you'd like, I can email them to you.
Tell them what I did. With the picture of my great-grandfather.
They were oval.
They were
I know.
ovals.
So my style, I'll tell you, forget it. I saw it in Tanti Mary's house, those
Right.
pictures.
Right.
And I mean, I knew she wasn't going to give them to me,
Right.
but I loved the picture.
Right.
So I made him come with a camera,
Right.
and he took a picture of the two
Right.
of them, that
Right.
that big picture
Right.
of them. And when I did this, I don't know, I was into full embroidery,
Right.
and I superimposed it onto this fabric,
Right.
and I did
A needlepoint is-
needlework of him. I never finished her. I tried
Right,
to do her and I
right.
didn't finish her, but I did. And
Right.
I gave it to my mother
Right.
and father,
Right.
and they put it into a national exhibition.
Right.
And I got first prize. And it's sitting in my house.
That's great.
I have a picture of it, but it really looks like him.
Yeah, well,
that picture,
like
but it's an
yeah.
embroidery.
Well, I got it from Carolyn
Right.
because she had it from Frida.
Right. So a
And
few people have.
there was a
it.
couple copies of it,
Right.
but I couldn't scan it directly because it
one.
was big and it was crisp and it would break because it was an oval. It was
Right,
not
right.
flat.
That's right.
So I did a digitized image of it, and then I used an editing program, and I sent it out to all my cousins. You
So I
know,
want a copy.
I'll send you a
But
copy.
his pictures came out very good.
Right.
This is like,
Yeah.
how many years ago? My parents were celebrating their 35th anniversary. And
Your father took it out of the frame, so it was a flat surface.
oh,
As
my
flat as
father
it could
was
be,
a frame
but it was oval. Yeah, I don't know if you remember it.
Picture was-
It was
was.
bowed.
It was.
It wasn't.
you know who had that picture was Frida's family,
Right.
Fanny. Remember Fanny?
Yeah.
Okay, so Fanny had it.
Fanny was, what's her name?
Bob, right.
Bob and
Uh,
his wife.
Bob Rosenberg's wife.
Yeah.
yeah, but what was his wife's
I
name?
forgot.
He was Bob Rosenberg. Were you related?
No.
I never connected the two
No.
until the
No.
second.
Yeah,
So Fanny had it, you know, Reva Sage.
Yeah, right.
So she always
That's the
said she
mother.
was gonna get me it because Fanny died and the husband had it, and what does he need it for?
Right.
But she never got it from me. But they had it, and then Tunty Tabby had it.
right. Who is the woman, you may remember this too, Dad. When my grandmother Mary died, we were sitting Shiva at Rose's house. And there was a woman at that time who was 95 years old and remembered the day Mary was born. What was her name?
Rose.
Her name is Razel Dupkus.
Razel Dupkus.
I'm telling you, I know that because my mother used to schlep me to this Razel Dupkus to get a bracha, because old people, if they gave you a bracha, it
Right.
came true.
Right,
So
She
my
said-
mother used to schlep me to the Hebrew home to see Razel Dupkus.
Right.
It was Razel Dupkus.
But
okay,
she-
because she
told
sat
me-
there,
She told the story that she says, I remember the night your mother was born.
Unbelievable.
and I was
In
like,
Poland.
I was 12 when I heard this story.
I
And,
mean, she sat there.
and she was sharp as a tack, and she was telling the story.
Right.
But at the time, I didn't have like an iPhone to be able to record this, like, and you know,
that's
but I
amazing.
remember that image as a kid.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this.
All right, well, I think we're done telling stories because we have babies coming down.
Right.
Okay.
You know what I want to get
This is your part, Joy.
that other
The name.
information filled out.